Oslo was struck by a very powerful bomb that went off just next to Prime Minister's office. 8 people were killed immediately, hundreds were injured. Panic struck Norwegians trying to figure out why they have been attacked by Islamic jihadists. They searched and they discovered many reasons. They found that Norway has been contributing troops to the NATO war effect. They found that the Muslims community of Norway had not been properly integrated into the society. They also found that just a week before, a Muslim preacher had been indicted for his incitement. While the country was still trying to make sense of this war, there was simultaneous attack a couple hours later in a school summer camp where more than 69 people were dead, including personal friend of Prime Minister or royal family. And of course, names starting popping up. This had to be a jihadist attack. Responsibilities, some Al Qaeda names started popping up. But ironically, it was none of that. This terror attack was handiwork of this man, whose name was Anders Breivik, and he was Norwegian. And he hated Muslims, and he was actually protesting against the multiculturalist policies of the Norwegian government. My second story is about this man. He goes by the name of Salim Durrani. He has many names. He operated in the valley for about 20 years. He moved in and out. The fences and the boundaries were never a problem for him. He has a prize on his head while he operated in the valley. And he has been known to be personally responsible for the death of 4 to 3 dozen young men. He is also a devout Muslim, prays 5 times a day. He has his AK-47 next to him like a true warrior. Each time he prays wherever he sleeps, never sleeps twice in 2 nights in a row. Salim Durrani is Mike Smith in Indian Army. This is the picture of him when he was major in the valley. Between him, his father and his grandfather, 3 generations, they have contributed 8 uniform services into the Indian Armed Forces. And between them, they hold 6 gallantry award and 2 commendation cards. The young lad that you see sitting on this left is Salim's son, who is now planning to join Indian Military Academy and continue the family tradition for 4 generations to service in this country. Now, when I told you these 2 stories, your mind jumps to a conclusion that was wrong. You thought of Salim Durrani when I told you that Muslim AK-47, and your mind jumped to a conclusion which was wrong. We do that very often. We take information which is coming to our brain, we stereotype it, and why do we do that? Do we do it because we are petty people, we are bad people? Turns out we do it just because we are people. And our brains are still evolving over millions of years of evolution. And it's incapable of dealing with these hundreds of input that come to our brain every seconds. So our mind filters them in some sort of patterns and jumps to a conclusion. Let me give you a few examples. For instance, until I say these sentences to you, you are unaware of the feeling of your touch of your thighs on your seat or the faint hum in of the air conditioner in this auditorium. But the moment I saw this these information were out there in your brain and you could actually sense it. But until then, those sensations were coming in and they were being filtered out. And that's the way our mind works at a time. It just takes 2 to 3 pieces of data and quickly jumps to a conclusion. Let's show that with another example. Try and solve this math puzzle. Suppose there is a racket and a ball which together cost 110 rupees. A racket costs 100 rupees more than the ball. What is the price of the ball? Now all of us who got it as 10 just witnessed how a way in which our brain take information and jump to the wrong conclusion. The answer is 5. The price of the ball is 5. The racket is 100 rupees more than the price of ball. But you heard 110 and 10. then you jump to the wrong conclusion. Now, the second feature of our stereotypical thinking is that we usually think of the worst case scenarios. That is why Salim Durrani is a terrorist not amongst the Muslims, officers, and soldiers who serve in the Indian Armed Forces. And why do we do that? Why do we always gravitate to the worst case scenario? Now, the answer for that is also a human evolution of brain. Now, suppose we went back to history and we were evolving, and now there is two tribes, tribe 1 and tribe 2. Tribe 1 consisted of brave, fearless warrior, and they would see a mammoth and say, I would take on this mammoth by myself. They come to a chasm and say, I run, and they would see a bright fruit and said, I will bite into it and forget about the consequences. And try to said when say this, saw this mammoth, they say, you know what, I cannot take this mammoth by myself. My son need to go and take more people. They come to a chasm, they go all the down to other side and they build a bridge, whatever. And they saw this bright fruit, but say, you know what, I will stick to my boring banana. Whose descendant do you think we are? Tribe 1 or tribe 2? Tribe 2, because tribe didn't have descendants, they died. So two elements with jumps to judgment, and through judgment are always toward worst case scenarios. And the third problem is in this wrong judgment, worst case scenarios, we also change physiologically. Our mind changes the way we behave, biologically changes. Let me show that to you with another example. How many of you see the movie Black? It was a sad movie. How many of you cried during the movie? Why did you cry? Amitabh Bachchan is making tons of money. Rani Mukherjee is not blind. This is all happening in a screen. This is not true. But we still cry because our reptilian brain didn't realize the difference between the fact and fiction and started physiologically feeling sad, physiologically taking decision in the emotional state of mind. Now, those of you didn't see the movie Black, or were too much not to cry during the movie, I want you to visualize one more example. I want you to visualize that I am asking you to open your mouth and stick out your tongue. Now your tongue is stuck out, your mouth is open. I have got a lemon in my hand and I am squeezing that lemon on the tip of your tongue, and the juice is going down in your tongue. Why are you salivating? There is no lemon in my hand. There is nothing in my hand. But again, your reptilian brain doesn't know that when you hear these words, lemon, lime, going, you can't stop salivating now. Because physiologically, our body changes the way we perform, we behave, we take decisions based on wrong information. Now, salivating on an imaginary lemon may be harmless, but stereotypes can be very, very dangerous. People get lynched by mobs because they believe they have eaten the wrong kind of meat. Communal riots break out based on false WhatsApp messages, Photoshop images. Countries go to war because they believe another country has got weapons of mass destruction. Countries leave alliances which they have been part of for decades because they believe immigrants are coming and stealing their jobs, which is incorrect information. We start looking every stranger with suspicion, and we think that anything that is different from us has to be dangerous. We start believing that anyone who is not with us is by definition against us. One of the founding principles of our country is the core value of tolerance. And tolerance, like wisdom, is the ability to contrarian idea within the same mind and evaluate each one on the merit before coming to a conclusive judgment. Before this talk, I was researching on the working of the brain or the on stereotyping, and I found many books. But I was hard pressed to find a book that would tell me how do we deal with this problem. What is the framework that will help us recognize this threat of parochialism and I and uselessness? Because if we start believing that anyone who is not with us is against us, then we start creating a society in a world in which everything is connecting to each other, which is extremely divisive. And finally, I found a book from which I wanted to read out a passage for you. The Fundamental Duties of the Citizens of the India, Article 51A. It shall be the duty of every citizen to promote harmony, spirit of brotherhood amongst all people of India, transcending religion, linguistic, regional, and sectional diversity. Now, this book, and many of you have guessed, is the Constitution of India. Is that book which is holier than every holy book. Is that book on which every soldier, every politician, every bureaucrat, every citizen of India swears his allegiance. We've been taught to stand up in attention whenever the national flag is unfurled. We teach that to our kids. We've been taught to stand up and being attention whenever the national anthem is played, and we teach that to our kids. I think it's also time for us to sit down and start studying the fundamentals which are being represented by that flag and by national anthem. Because as the saying goes, whenever you are struggling for a new idea, sometimes it's a good idea to read an old book. Thank you, Jai Hind.